Today's video, I will be discussing the legalization of all drugs, not just marijuana, but everything from heroin to crack cocaine to methamphetamines. Now, a lot of people are in favor of legalizing just marijuana because obviously marijuana is, it's not as harmful as people make it out to be, and it's definitely less harmful than alcohol. But a lot of people draw the line on marijuana and don't want to legalize everything else. Now, the reason that I want to legalize everything is because I want to increase harm reduction. Just put it this way. If you look at an addict, a person who's addicted to like crack cocaine, heroin, whatever, a lot of times the people, they will, or I mean, because it's illegal, they have to go to a criminal source to obtain their drug of choice. And if you haven't heard already, there have been quite a bit of overdose deaths in the United States, and they've been surging mainly due to the fact that heroin is starting to become, is coming back. You know, it was an epidemic during, I would say, like the 70s-ish, and then it sort of like faded away. I mean, there was always heroin, but crack cocaine definitely became America's drug of choice for probably about 2 decades. And then now that, the cocaine supplies are starting to become harder to come by, and the cartels are pushing more and more into the heroin trade, you see a surge of heroin, a surge of heroin supply in our country. And then this is also due to the fact that a lot of the people who were pill poppers, over the last decade or so, are now starting to find that, getting their pills such as Vicodin, Xanax, whatever, is starting to become harder to come by. So they're now going to heroin. And, there's been a lot of dealers, in order to increase their profit, they will mix it with different chemicals that can become, deadly. I mean, obviously, heroin is dangerous just because it's heroin, but when you mix it with, let's say, rat poison, if you inject it in your arm, you're pretty much dead. So there's many reasons to want to legalize drugs, because if you legalize it, you can regulate it, you can tax it, and then also there won't be all this other stuff in the drugs that could kill people. And then when it's regulated, it's easier for people to come off of it, because let's say that you're addicted to heroin and you want to get off of it. It's very, very hard to just go cold turkey and quit it outright. What you can do is you get them hooked on a plan where you have a lower and lower and lower dose until you can wean them off of it. You just can't, they have that for cigarette smokers as well, where you have like basically a general reduction of nicotine in cigarettes, and then until you're off of it. So I think that could work as well, and it has been proven to work, because in Portugal they have pretty much decriminalized drugs, and they have had like very large drops within their drug-related crimes. And I think the United States can do the same, because we spent about $1 billion on this drug war, or actually not $1 billion, $1 trillion, I mean, on this drug war. And to be honest with you, as a person who knows a lot of people who sell drugs, it's easier to come by a lot of these harder drugs. It's easier to get these drugs now than it was before, and it's a lot more potent. So the drug war has not worked. Like the mass incarceration of a lot of our inner city ghettos has not worked either. It's destroyed communities, and a lot of the the drug problem is also tied into the gang violence problem, where the gangs and then even the cartels are fighting over drug turf. So when you legalize it, you have it regulated, you tax it, and you have it, centers where people can go to do their drugs in a safe environment. You give them, clean needles, so you can reduce the HIV infection rates. You can also have, healthcare professionals on site in order to, like, if a person wants to seek some sort of treatment or get tested for whatever, they have it there. And then also you can have a drug treatment program at these centers as well, instead of just having drug addicts shoot up in factories or abandoned houses and things in that manner. Now, I like to use Chicago as a case study, because it's definitely a prime example of how you can just basically destroy large, heads of organized super gangs such as the Gangster Disciples, Vice Lords, Black P Stones, Latin Kings, etc. And you can like destroy all their leadership, but then like it's like a hydra where you cut off the head, and then there's still going to be people who will take up the ranks of those who will take up where the people you just arrested left off. And it really doesn't do anything. Like, when they took out Larry Hoover and his board of directors, because he was called the chairman of the board, and then you had a whole bunch of top leaders who were indicted under the RICO statute, which is the Racketeering and Corrupt Criminal Organizations Act or something like that. And they took all of them out. But then instead of it being like the Gangster Disciples, instead of it being like one super gang and maybe like one or two splitter factions or whatever, now you have basically 1,000 different subsets or whatever, and then they're all fighting. A lot of them are maybe be allies, but some of them are fighting with each other. And you see a lot of violence in the city of Chicago today, basically over gangs fighting over territory to distribute and sell drugs. So the way that you correct that is by you legalize everything. Instead of it being where you have criminal organizations profiting off of drugs, where they can in turn go and buy more guns, and then the violence just keeps rolling on and on and on. You legalize it, but then also, in order to get these gang members out of that lifestyle, you can also get them to maybe once they go through some sort of gang intervention program where you give them the resources in order to maybe get a GED diploma or something like that, and maybe you can have them help with the legalization of it. I know it might sound crazy, but who's better to help facilitate these the legal sale and distribution of drugs than the people who are doing it illegally? You look at the people like the Italian mafia, who a lot of them were illegally running their alcohol distribution businesses during Prohibition, and then once it became legalized, they pretty much allowed a lot of them to get out of the illegal world and then become a legalized business that pays taxes and are productive members of society. I think the same can happen with the major gangs throughout our country. You have them help in these communities that are pretty much ravaged by violence, and you give them jobs and employ them, give them a livable wage, and I guarantee you that they will turn away from their lifestyle. I have talked to numerous drug dealers throughout my life, and even though I am a college student who's almost done with college, I've talked to a lot of them, and they always tell me that, like, wow, Chris, I'm very impressed with you. If I could, I would trade this life for the life that you have any day. And these are drug dealers who have been selling drugs for since like I was in middle school, and I'm like 22 years old now. So it's not the fact that they want to do it. When you live in a community where there's no opportunity, you come from poverty, where let's say like your parents or whatever don't have the means to take care of you and maybe your siblings, you might have to turn to an illegal lifestyle to basically put food on the table. It's just the way it is in some cases. It's sad, but hey, we as a society should work on ways to correct that. But and then also with the legalization of all drugs, you also start to cut back on the drug cartels south of the border, because look, Mexico is a war zone. We talk about the Middle East, but people forget that just right across the border in Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, all those countries, they are seeing epidemics of violence. And then this is not something that's been just recent. You look at during the 80s with Pablo Escobar. He literally killed half the Supreme Court justices of Colombia in order to not be extradited to the United States. He pretty much was ruling that country with impunity for a decade. He was at one point worth $30 billion. So it's you need to do something different than what you've been doing, because you can crack down on the major criminal organizations as much as you want, but there's always going to be people who are 18 or 20, my age or whatever, who they might have seen people grow like sell drugs who are older than them when they're kids, and they see them get locked up and like, wow, there's no one else doing it on this corner now. So hey, I'm going to just start with maybe an eighth and then move on and just keep flipping and flipping, and then it's the same thing. It's a cycle that keeps going, and I think we need to break that cycle. So if I'm really interested in hearing what you guys have to say about legalizing all drugs, because this is something that I think needs to be discussed in our country. I know that the right wing part of our country is definitely not in favor of it. They're not in favor of legalizing marijuana, even if there's a kid who's in pain, who's in chronic pain, and and then they have, instead of them taking 15 different drugs that make them feel like they're not even alive, they smoke marijuana or like whatever, and they're able to be happy and laugh and enjoy their lives. But then you have pieces of shit in our political system who say that no, we need to, all drugs are bad, but then after they're done BSing in our capital, they go to the bars and drink alcohol. So that's all I gotta say. Thanks for watching. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below, and enjoy your day.